Stühle nehmen, genau, können wir auch. Und wir können rumlaufen.
Würde noch passen. Würde noch passen, wenn wir rumlaufen.
Ja, genau. Genau. Ja, stimmt, dann nehme ich aber mal ganz weit weg. Da passiert mir nichts. Genau.
So, warm welcome to this session. We will take you on a little walk the next hour and next 2 hours, I think. We will wander around, hike around in this room here. Maybe you will also get up and walk around where you are at your place. I'm Andreas Birgisser from ZHDK University of the Arts in Zurich, and me and Ulrike and Judith from the Mozarteum, and Georges Pfründer und Milena Meyer from the Pedagogical Applied Arts University in Switzerland, Bruck. We have organized something that became something bigger or something more special or something totally different than what we have expected in the beginning. It was an event called Walking Terms, a whole Saturday afternoon and evening. Students from Switzerland, from Salzburg, came together with so-called senior walkers, artists from all around the world, and had a little talk, a little chat, a little walk together, and discussed some terms that they were interested in. And now we'll present you a little bit this project, and maybe this is also a project or something we can continue doing, like this walking together and discussing terms. So what happened? How did it start?
Well, I remember it did start with the idea that we want to do something which is really already a glossary, not just talking about a glossary, but which could be a glossary, and which would be a glossary where nobody is the defined author, nobody holds an authorship and claims my definition of something is right or wrong. This is where it started for me, where it did start for you, Judith.
I think it maybe started 2 steps earlier than I originally thought it was starting, because it kind of already started with the thought, how do we bring as many people as possible into this thinking and doing about and of a glossary. So for me, going back in my mind, it started with the question of how do we do it in participation. Do you still remember when it started, Andrea?
Yeah, for me it started with an email with a request to join one of 4 different working groups preparing the next glossary conference. And I was thinking this group particular was the best one, or the one that interested me the most, because the idea of this international glossary was kind of to do something that is quite difficult, to do a glossary, but a glossary that is still moving, that doesn't define anything, but keeps you going, thinking and discussing terms instead of defining it. So I thought, okay, walking, thinking about the format, about walking and terms, maybe it's called walking terms, that's interesting to me.
And it started also by the idea that we have to do something not only just for our students, but with our students.
And in that, it started already further back maybe, because at the beginning of the term, already before, at least, all of us were talking about this, we did a project with our students already here in Salzburg, where we were in the main studio that we have, and we were walking around, thinking about which words are we missing, but in our daily work, but just in a very small circle. So I think what was really exciting was to get that idea onto a bigger level.
So when I asked the question, when did it start, I opened like Pandora's box because it started. There's like a whole theory behind it as well, or a whole history of artists walking around. And I remember that George or George. I
George,
never
we
know.
call him George.
I say George, you say George.
Okay.
You both were talking about dérive
Yeah.
a lot. So how did that inspire you for this format?
The dérive, it inspired the format in this strong belief that giving each other random rules and starting it. Starting going for a walk with terms and with a colleague and exchanging and not knowing beforehand what you would say afterwards, but letting it grow and develop it together with somebody would help a little bit, perhaps also by trying to use a big word, to decolonize the ideas of definition and the ideas of getting a grip on each other's language.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like very vividly a moment when it for me practically started, when I did my first test walk with Milena. And she and George had already been trying and telling us about it in the meetings, just sitting there. And it sounded amazing. And then actually doing it was something very, very different and very great.
I did a tryout with George, and I really enjoyed the merging or the coming together of the walking and of what we saw on each other from each other's walk, and that had something of this kind of maybe also decentralizing of ideas or of thoughts from myself as someone who controls it totally, what I'm thinking, or what or I'm the one that forms my ideas. It was also like the park I was walking in and the people that passed by and what George saw and said. So this was really nice.
It's actually the very moment where I thought it's worth to stick on this idea, seeing how the environment of somebody else who is not in the same place as me, that this environment, which I could see via phone, smartphone, is influencing my thoughts. And that that I not only have a dialogue with a person, but I have also a dialogue with an environment, that I try to that I'm able to share environment and environment of thoughts with a person. Yes, this is why I stick to it, actually. This was fascinating to me. What was fascinating to you now, afterwards?
Now afterwards, I think fascinating was one point at many points, but certainly one point at the 10th of April, when we actually did the first edition of the Walking Terms Festival. And we all, I think, got back after our first walk. So we met in Zoom and had the little introduction and technical details and setting the task. You will see how it goes in a moment. And then we started walking, and there was this moment when everyone came back to the joint space. And it was just such a different encounter than it, for me, had ever been via Zoom before. It was really a merging of very present worlds, so to say.
I remember this moment as well, because I asked the participants to just write into the Zoom their first thoughts about the walk. And it's like it was a really cheesy moment, because I was really deeply touched by what they wrote. it was, yeah, I was, and I've never expected that, because I was more thinking about derive and the thoughts and how we can be whatever, like with very intellectual approach about knowing walking changes something and it influences me, but it was kind of an intellectual approach. And there, this was this really emotional moment. I was really surprised of.
Any other emotional moments that you folks remember? Where
Yes,
that's
when-
really where it hit me.
From the mini festival itself, for me the most emotional moment was when we were already very exhausted after 2 walks we did digitally together in 2 different environments, and we gathered together in the Zoom environment, and we were close to this point to say, oh, come on, we cut the story short, everybody is writing its definitions, its stories, its stuff just on a Word document, you send it later on to us and we will proceed it further. And we decided, no, we don't do, and we dare to have, even we are exhausted, these 20 minutes together where we would write together the computer. So everybody in its own place, but we share this very moment in the Zoom space writing. And there was more or less just silence, and you heard that the machines are going, the fingers are going over. And this was a sort of magic for me a little bit, and also see this Slack platform being filled up with something. Yeah. So this was my big magical moment. Yeah.
Is this already the moment where we could show this Slack that was filled up?
I think
This the moment?
going now to this physical glossary work, which is existing on this platform Slack, would make it perhaps a little bit easier to get access. So perhaps we should be that honest and say, please look now very carefully, because you might need it for the 2nd edition of Walking Terms today.
True.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So we start that now?
Yes. And now, I mean, this also is like a very typical moment for this whole journey, because we all started finding out about all those technical platforms. How do we show the Slack now?
I think we try to get it up on the monitor here, and maybe while we're doing that, we're still seeing the room as we're trying to find it.
Yeah.
That maybe is how that goes, and Markus is helping us with that. That's
So
also the
now
good
you
thing
see
about
Markus.
walking. Exactly.
He was walking
Different
here.
people.
That's yeah. So maybe while you are looking for Slack, I was today in the train arriving here, and I was thinking about the question you asked. What changed what in your perception of walking terms changed afterwards? And for me, something very special was that it was such a low-key kind of event with Slack and with cell phone, and everyone chooses his own term to take on this walk. It's quite simple. But in the end, I had this feeling, we felt a little like a collective.
Collective.
A collective.
Call it a collective.
And I've never thought about that before. It was like a miracle, or we were really like, we did this now, we will continue with this project as a kind of an artist collective. And this was like, oh yes, of course, but why was that? Do you have?
Why was that? Well, I think if you, I haven't thought about that, why it happened. But if you ask me, I can try to get a grip on. I think perhaps it happened because everybody sticked to the procedure until the end. Even so, we wouldn't know about the next steps. So I think this was a very base. Yeah.
So there was a lot of trust in this afternoon. Yeah. I was also thinking about sharing thoughts, sharing insight in lives, different lives, sharing this whole process from meeting to the product in the end. It was like a production process in very compromised. So I think there was a lot of sharing and
also I think the surprise to see how many people you can meet in just a short time, that you can really get known a person from a colleague from India or from LA or from Vienna or wherever, that you really can spend let's say productive, a good time together and get each other known by a concrete question, a concrete time, a concrete occasion.
And also how little it takes.
Yeah.
Yes.
People, isn't it? Like also now when like looking back onto the Slack, this very Slack, it feels like, there we go. It feels like, there's still a connection to the people. There's still being in their places and seeing it. And
so
by
perhaps
seeing
just, Chu, did you start going through the Slack and...
Right. And that would be starting at the welcome page where you saw the people taking part, at least our senior walkers, we had senior walkers and student walkers to,
There are
mix it
some
up a
student
little.
walkers in here, aren't there? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, and I believe there's senior walkers joining us via the stream, and probably also rejoining the Zoom meeting later on. At least that's what we've heard. We had some examples there, and then people started walking, being matched in different breakout groups, and started on their walk, checking out. Exactly, Andreas is much more familiar with the terrain of Slack still than I am.
I think it's nice to see here that this was like a channel for like inspirational terms, but already here started the dialogues and the hearts, and so this is really nice.
Yeah.
This was
It's true. Also there it's hard to say where the beginning actually was, right?
Yes.
Because this is already something we had not anticipated, which is great. That it kind of took its own life from the very beginning. And the tasks for the walks were hopefully quite simple and easy. Very clear, saying put your phone on this view, get connected to your walking partner, and start walking, and upload whatever you have on the Slack as impressions from your walk.
So I just thought that it would make sense, perhaps once showing again the manual for the walking terms, which is here in this first channel. Is it? Yes, it is somehow. Yeah. To so you get an idea what people really did. The preparation, the prophecy. You will participate in 2 walks. Make sure you have shoes which are suitable for this outing. Make sure your cell phone is fully charged.
Very important point.
Yeah. So then the first walk. Junior walkers will provide the term which will be revealed to the senior walkers individually in the break-off sessions following the introduction. So we had an introduction which was followed by breakout sessions where people would understand with whom they would spend the next hour. So provide the contact details, cell phone numbers, and decide whether you will be exchanged on FaceTime, WhatsApp, Signal, or other. Put on your walking shoes, call each other, and start. So during your walk, keep your camera on your phone in active mode to allow your walking partner to see your environment. These questions might inspire your walk. Can you walk without being disturbed? Is it hot? How do you imagine your digital partner's path smell? What images appear to you on your cell phone, which also inform your walking? Are you using the cell phone in selfie mode or as a projecting tool? Is the phone on loudspeaker mode, or do you prefer to keep it private close to your ear? Do you focus on your feet? Stop somewhere convenient to you. Share with your partner what you see, what you hear. Take a picture or find an object which seems somehow makes sense in regard to the conversation. Nonsense is also good. The end of the walk. Get a cup of tea or a glass of wine. Get on a Slack channel. Note the term you had taken for a walk. Describe some impressions. Upload the images, etc. So, I stop reading what you can read yourself, but perhaps you get an insight what people knew before they joined us on Zoom to get the introduction, to see each other, and what they would know before they do their first walks. Yes. So now I would go back to, oh yes, and perhaps it's very important to say that we decided that the student walkers should decide on a term, and that the senior walkers are more or less the experts for being flexible and jumping with their brain and their experience on thinking and talking about a lot of, that they're just joining and providing their mental and physical space for this passage together. So I go back to the documentation of your walks, where you may see some, and I'm just leaving this desk, and you will see something will happen and somebody will keep on going.
Yes, you were talking about the senior walkers and the student walkers, and maybe now you hate this, but some student walkers are here, right? Could you share like a thought or something that you were surprised about, or what you liked about your walk, how you felt about it?
I think you can use this microphone just if you would.
Either keep distance or keep on the mask, I think, is the rules.
So.
Hi.
Hi.
I would like to share a surprising moment because we agreed with my first walking partner from South Africa that we will talk about, should I? Yeah. About individualism and the rhythm of individualism, and we kind of, I offered obviously something, but he was always adding his views and ideas, and then we lost each other. So I walked alone individually for like 45 minutes waiting for him to get back to me. And then when we could reconnect, it turned out that he was walking in such a dangerous area of his city that he didn't dare to take his phone in his hands. And I was walking in the middle of the forest in Salzburg, like in the cleanest and most safe city ever where I've been. So we switched topic and we started to talk about danger and safety in cities, and also how as a female and a male we can feel still endangered or safe in these cities. And then we ended up in our houses, and my current house is a beautiful garden house with a family and like hippie clothes all over. And his house was completely blocked with these bars on the windows for against the teeth. So finally we just took an image of the two houses, and from individualism through this lonely walk we ended up in our very blocked or very open houses, and it was a very nice exchange. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wow. Mm-hmm.
Hey, I actually had a interesting experience in not walking, because we didn't even manage to leave the houses, as we just stepped into our conversation right away. And we end up talking like 50 minutes, as it's saying actually right here in Me Too and Me, we didn't even move 1 meter. But yeah, we got really deep in thoughts, and it really took us somehow very close for those very precious moments, I think. And it was inspiring, feeling this distance is gone so easily somehow, at least for a small situation on a normal Saturday. Yeah.
Thank you, Jonas.
Hello everybody. So I think I can relate very much with Anna's walking experience. Raimi and I, we had a walk. I was walking here. Raimi was in South Africa, and we talked about safety. And he said he would not feel safe having the phone to his ear, and he recommended that we go into the mall. So we both went to our respective malls, whereas like for me, the mall is a rather unsafe space, right? Because I feel like all this capitalism just throwing itself at me and just begging for me to give it attention. However, the experience was very, very interesting. And now I will just glide into my second walk, which was with Donna. We came up with some of our own new terms, which I think this is a blessing in a way from these walking terms. We came up with a term with bordering practices, and we thought of mudding, for example, which comes at a combination of water and soil, or also steaming. And I suppose you know how that comes to be. And yeah, it was really interesting to think of practices, artistic practices that find themselves at borders. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all these impressions. I just scroll a little bit through. So this is like the wild documentation in this Channel 3, where people would write their reports, their impressions about the walk, basically. And we also had the mapped terms, where we, oh, look, it's me, where we could go to a Padlet and just fill our impressions, our little clips, our photographs on a map. So you can locate it. So this is easy technique. It's very available. It's nothing special. It's just like, we just use it, more or less.
For free?
For free, yes. So we really also tried to make it the accessible and the reachable.
Which also brought us to the terms of Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Because that is also some mapping that we did on the go, you know, knowing what if there is no data with your phone, where's the next Wi-Fi hotspot. We had people just walking in a 2 square meter radius, well, not really, but like 10, like 1 block of a street, because that's where the next coffee place's Wi-Fi reached. And believe it or not, you can make quite diverse experiences in a block of a street. Right, so we had the mapping and the uploading, and that eventually brought us to the first steps into what might be the next steps into the glossary of desire. And also there, if scrolling through it, if I manage that with one hand, I do. You again see the different train of thoughts that brought people to their, to the terms they wanted to, put down in whatever form possible. That is not your ordinary glossary. That is not your stuck terms, but that gives room to whatever is happening between you, like in the interpersonal, interconnected spaces. So this is some of the first impressions we got there for
And what is perhaps also very important to say that such an platform gives you the possibility to just have a chat about. So the chat, the conversation about a term comes to this moment that the chat, the ongoing chat, the conversation is the definition and not the definition is the definition. So it's much more what you can read now might not be the end. In a conversation or thinking about terms, languages, wordings, which always carry practices and philosophies and opinions with itself. Yeah.
Yeah, and now we have like channel 8.
Yeah.
And
What is channel 8? I got an invitation to channel 8, but I didn't have time to accept it.
Neither did I. Let's
what
see.
is channel 8 now?
it's the channel for today.
Oh, okay.
It's for the ongoing. Everything that you see there is not so interesting. It's just, it basically says that this channel has been opened, and it has been opened for a reason that today we can, anyone who likes on the screen or live here can take part on a walking term session. But maybe before we do that, do we collect some thoughts about the project?
Yeah, I would like suggest if we are sure that we said everything which is important for all you guys out there at the streams to at 5 p.m. Join the Zoom session and jump on the Walking Terms edition 2. If we are sure about that, so think, are we sure about that? Then we can stop the streaming and go to the live discussion and the live question answering about it. And you guys out there who would meet in Zoom, you will have the chance then to meet Milena Meyer and George Fründner, who were with us doing this walking term thing, and who can answer all your questions the good as we can, better, I guess so. And yes, so we will just divide the spaces now to make them more productive. So you don't have to wait for us, we don't have to wait for you. We go and then we meet again and exchange. Okay? So whoever want to take part with Walking Terms, whoever want to know more is at 5 p.m. on Zoom. You got the links with the emails. And if not, send an email immediately to applied-theater at moz.ac.at. Got it?
Anna is constantly at checking those emails. Thank you for that. And
Okay.
So you'll be all set.
So join the Walking Terms today. This is fun because there we can really meet the two conferences and the two spaces. And okay, so we stop the streaming thing now and go into discussion, question, answer here. Bye-bye, see you later.